Frank Holmes, executive chairman of HIVE, just came back from the biggest blockchain and Bitcoin conference in the world from Miami. Frank, welcome back from sandy beaches of Florida. How are you?
Well, this was the biggest conference I've been in the world. The Money Show in Orlando would get 6,000 to 7,000 people, but they paid nothing. This had people spending $600 in advance. 12,000 people bought tickets. At the gate, they were $1,200 a ticket. The whales were paying $15,000, but at the gate, there were $21,000 if you want to spend. So it was amazing. And it's not at a convention center. It was away in the Art Soho district. So everything was a 15-minute Uber drive. And if you went outside of the speakers area, it was extremely hot. And you had nothing but dead mouse music, pounding, pounding, pounding. So it was hard to have a conversation, but it was an immense amount of epic energy.
I want to talk about your panel and some of the important points that you've made in just a minute. But first, the news of the day, Bitcoin price slid a little bit. We're going to be talking about former President Donald Trump's comments, as well as on the other side of the spectrum, El Salvador president's comments. But first, Trump's comments. He said that Bitcoin, and I quote, "Bitcoin, it just seems like a scam. I don't like it because it's another currency competing against the dollar. I want the dollar to be the currency of the world. That's what I've always wanted." He said this on Fox Business today, and Bitcoin price slid a few percentage points on the comments. What do you make of these comments, Frank? Do you agree, disagree?
One, sure. It's the only thing that he and Janet Yellen agree on. Two, I really think it's more an anti-China statement. And the concern, and I heard this 3 years ago, was that the Chinese, who are more than 50% of the mining, the big complaint is because they use a lot of coal to mine Bitcoin. They just basically dump it, and that's what's hurting. They don't allow Bitcoin to be used in China. So really that mechanism is trying to hurt the dollar. I really think what's happening is that Bitcoin is becoming more mainstream in America, and we're seeing the new pools to be created are American with trade. They're going to have greater transparency, accountability. It makes the auditors happy. So I actually see what we've been seeing for a while, David, is the great shift. I've talked about this over a decade ago, of gold bars leaving here, going to Switzerland, going to China. And all of a sudden now Bitcoin is now coming here to be dominated in America and Europe and mining. So there is this big crossover happening. And I think down the road, Bitcoin becomes really domiciled in America.
Well, you know who doesn't think that Bitcoin is a scam is the El Salvador President Nayib Bukele. He made a proposal at the conference that you attended, and he basically proposed that El Salvador would make Bitcoin legal tender, and people like CZ from Binance were tweeting that this is great, this is fantastic news. People in the Bitcoin community are speculating that El Salvador could be the next Bitcoin capital of the world. I'm just going to read the president's tweets here. He said, "Bitcoin has a market cap of $680 billion. If 1% of it is invested in El Salvador, that would increase our GDP by 25%. On the other side, Bitcoin will have 10 million potential new users and the fastest growing way to transfer $6 billion a year in remittances." What do you think of this proposal? Do you think El Salvador could, in fact, be the Bitcoin capital of the world very soon?
Well, I think conceptually, if you're an idealist, it sounds fantastic. The issues that we always have risk with is a leader like this in El Salvador is that it's going to become a domicile for nefarious activities. And that's a great concern for drug trafficking, human trafficking. You know that there's a huge crisis of poor people, women and children leaving El Salvador, tracking all the way up through Mexico to get into America. So I really hope that there's good intentions with Bitcoin being domiciled there. Very different than the mayor of Miami that wants to make the city a Silicon Valley and is a Bitcoin buyer. And his message was very compelling. So I would relate more to the mayor in Miami than I will the leader of El Salvador.
But if somebody were to tell you that Bitcoin would eventually become a reserve currency or a legal tender in some part of the world, would it not surprise you that it would come from a Latin American country or even a developing country in Africa or Southeast Asia than, let's say, the United States?
Well, as I come back to my real concern is nefarious activities and drug dealing.
Hmm.
Venezuela had deals they were circulating around at this event that they'll give you cheap electricity for 1.6 cents. But that's really Venezuela's GDP per capita now is lower than Haitians. So it's a real issue that drug trafficking goes from Venezuela up and finds its way into America and to Europe. One of the biggest or negative parts of the whole Bitcoin saga has really become southern Spain, is where $500 euros get cleansed for these activities. So I think the faster we can wrestle away that it's not used for nefarious activities, the
Hmm.
better that it's going to become a more legitimate legal tender.
What would make it more legitimate? Do you think a G7 country like the US needs to be able to follow in El Salvador's footsteps, so to speak? That's not a sentence we say very often, but in terms of Bitcoin, do you think the US should be next in legalizing Bitcoin as legal tender?
Well, that's going to be a long way off, I think. But with G20 countries, okay, I think that would be something of greater interest. The G7 is that cartel. I've shared with you many
Yeah.
times that cartel actually was doing a great job. While the biggest Bitcoin event was taking place, the G7 countries announced a minimum tax, a corporate tax on
Hmm.
their countries. That's very much a socialistic model that history shows that it just limits any type of competition, and it limits basically R&D, research and development, in particular innovation. So I really think when you take a look at it, it's just a bad idea. But right now, the socialists, their agenda, even though some are more quiet than others, is in full steam.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute because you are both an investor and a business owner. So this affects you in many ways. The proposal of a floor in taxes for multinational corporations among G7 countries, that was proposed recently over the weekend. What was your first reaction to that? Did you want to change your investment policies at all, your business policies at all? Why do you think they even want to do this during a recovery mode of the economy? We're still, technically not yet fully recovered from the pandemic. Why are they raising taxes?
Because it's a very socialist mindset. And so Janet Yellen, when the previous administration under Obama was all about these policies of synchronized taxation and regulation and harmonization of taxation and regulation, that word harmony sounds nice. Really, it means higher taxes and regulation. The state of California is seeing a massive exodus of businesses moving to Texas and to Florida and to Vegas,
Hmm.
Nevada, the state of Nevada, for a reason, but they're trying to turn around and stop you from leaving. They want to put an exit tax on you within the country. So you're starting to see that this concept really will harm. Let's go back to Deng Xiaoping when basically the big change took place in China, very different than today's leader. That's now the helmsman, the dictator like Mao forever.
Hmm.
Under Deng Xiaoping, he said to get rich is glorious, and he started 7 tax-free zones along the port cities to ignite the growth and the sort of the miracle of what took place in China. San Antonio, where I'm based right now, to get Toyota to come here, we created a special tax zone for building a huge Toyota plant, billions of dollars, which has been a phenomenal. I think it's a real bad idea, as the tech lobbyist group have said. But we'll see how it unfolds. All this means is you want to be buying gold and silver, and I think having a 2% in Bitcoin, Ethereum is just wise. Having 10% in gold and silver is just wise.
Okay. So as a portfolio manager, you would respond to this by allocating more of your funds into Bitcoin, gold, and silver. That would be your strategy.
Well,
Okay.
if you're not invested in gold and silver, just think for 21 years now, the gold has outperformed the S&P 500 by 250%. Like, hello, not having a 10% weighting in a diversified portfolio, you're a bit of a bozo at that end. And now, too, is you're seeing the emergence of a new digital class. And all we have to do is get more and more believers. Like anytime something happens like this, like I mentioned before in diamonds really didn't have much economic value until all of a sudden it became the validator for true love and a commitment to get married. And it grew from $100 a coin to 1,000 to 10,000. And I think that Bitcoin is going through the same process because it's limited at 21 million coins.
Okay. I want to talk about green energy coins, something that you've discussed at the conference. What is this green energy mining for crypto coins? What is this concept, and how are you applying it to your business?
Well, it's so funny because HIVE was the first public company, and HIVE Blockchain Technology was the first public company to mine cryptocurrency on an industrial scale. When we launched it, we had an ESG strategy and we had a green-only energy strategy. Many other people came along and jumped in the bandwagon to try to copy that model, but they're not using green only. And now we're finding that Marathon said they didn't care, they're going to use coal, and the backlash that took place over Elon Musk comments. But what's happened is it's pulled us all down with these comments. And I think the biggest players in the US are Marathon and Riot based on market cap. And they've been using other forms of energy. And so I believe that over the time, if you hodl your coin and it came from an ESG compatibility, it was green energy only, and it was never floated in a dark cloud. It has no nefarious activity in countries that are known like North Korea, etc., or Iran. It's a virgin coin. It's going to be like a numismatic. It's going to be like having a Babe Ruth original card, in which went for $1.6 million on an NFT. So I think they're going to become more valuable. So that's why we hodl them. We mine Ethereum Classic, we sell it, we take the cash, pay our electrical bills in Quebec, in Sweden, and Iceland, and now New Brunswick, and we keep building our asset base in both Ethereum and Bitcoin.
And generally, how would you respond to criticism that crypto mining has contributed to global warming and it takes up a lot of electricity and energy? How would you respond to that?
It's bad math. It's really bad math. It's greatly exaggerated math that says you don't know where it came from. I was told at the conference it came from Ripple, because Ripple is centralized and Ripple is under attack, and they have bots on the internet and they spread all this sort of negative news and misinformation. But the fact that they're 2% of the world's energy is just BS. And the new chips that are coming out, the new ASIC chip from Bitmain S19, it's 5 times more efficient. The NVIDIA chips that are coming out are 3 times more energy efficient. So what you're really seeing is more like 10 basis points. It's not the world's energy. It's a lot cheaper than gold mining. It's a lot cheaper than banking. So this is greatly misguided misinformation to try to harm the ecosystem. But I think it's just short-term sentiment, negativity. Long-term, it just creates a great buying opportunity.
Okay, perfect. Well, let's follow up next time and talk more about the strategies that crypto miners are taking to reduce energy consumption.
It's interesting. The event, I got booed when I talked about having.
It's interesting. Yeah, talk about that.
And I was just a chuckle. And then Kevin O'Leary says, "So you're saying your coins are worth more?" And it's like a Frank coin. It became chanting, "Frank coin, Frank coin." Well, the Frank Bitcoin is a coin that is mined from green energy and is a virgin coin, and it will be collected and saved. And I think in 10 years will be more valuable, like the original Picasso artwork or Andy Warhol work.
Okay, well, when Frank Coin comes out, let me know first. We'll talk about it. Hopefully, El Salvador can also make that legal tender. It will be great. Finally, let's end with price action. What are your thoughts on recent price action? Is that something that you follow on a day-to-day basis?
Well,
Ethereum and Bitcoin.
When we look at Bitcoin and Ethereum, like I've always looked at gold and commented when you've asked the question, is the DNA of volatility. The DNA of volatility, remind all your listeners, on a daily basis for the S&P 500 is more than gold. But talking heads will tell you gold's more volatile. Not true. The daily volatility of bullion is 1%, up or down 70% of the time. Stock market is 2%. Bitcoin and Ethereum are 6%, like Tesla. Same thing. Disruptive is Tesla. It's highly volatile. And the big battle between people saying it's going to work, it's not going to work. So I think that what we saw earlier with Ethereum and Bitcoin, there were 2 standard deviations when you look over 60 and 20 trading days, for 1 year. And now they've all corrected back to the mean. And over 20 days, it's now 1 standard deviation down. It's becoming more attractive. So I think that the sell-off just creates a great opportunity to accumulate. So anytime it's down 10% in a day, it's usually a good buying opportunity.
All right, fantastic. And Frank, let's follow up next time and talk more about prices and developments in the space. Thank you very much for coming on today.
Thank you, David. Happy investing.
Happy investing to all watching right now, and stay tuned for more news. I'm David Lin.